I have always loved taking pictures of my sons. Over the years, I have permanently captured birthday celebrations and summertime sprinkler fun, as well as quiet moments with a book and even a couple of crying fits. Keeping my camera with me at all times was wonderful for capturing the finer points of day-to-day life with my kids, but it wasn't ideal. I often found myself reflecting on the fact that being behind a camera could so often take the focus away from truly living in the moment. There is no greater example of this very situation than the Walt Disney World trip we took in 1997 when the boys were 5 and 2. Back then, I was in the throes of my scrapbooking craze. I attended group scrapbooking sessions regularly and thought that by the time my kids were teens, I'd have each and every photo in our collection placed in colorful books on extraordinary layouts with stickers, paper borders, and other page embellishments. Boy, was I wrong. But I digress. Several of my friends were thinking out of the box and creating something different, ABC scrapbooks. Each page layout corresponded with the letter, and by doing away with chronological order and other ho-hum themes, the books turned out beautiful, unique, and interesting. I was intrigued by the idea, but knew myself well enough to realize that taking on such an involved and specific project might result in self-induced madness. Of course, when we started planning our Disney trip, all bets were off. The idea popped back into my head, and I thought, hey, I should make an ABC album of our vacation. And then my head exploded. Not really. But imagine for a moment what an idea like that can do to someone like me, who is a creative, obsessive, list-making, perfectionist control freak. I started making my letter list ahead of the trip, of course, so I'd know what to look for. For example, M was Mickey, Minnie, Monorail, Magic Kingdom, and many more. By making a list, I could check things off as I took photos, and since this was when I was still shooting with film, it was really the only way to keep track of my photos anyway. Have I mentioned how much I love checking things off lists? This project was turning into a dream. My poor family did not have a chance. We finally arrived at the Magic Kingdom, and boy, did we have a great time. I was snapping photos right and left. I took pictures of those boys with Pluto, P, waiting for the parade, W, and even with a bottle of Zephyr Hills brand water, Z. It gets better, and by better, I mean worse. Let me just say first that I know for a fact we had fun on that trip. My pictures indicate it. That said, the memory that stands out in my mind, and unfortunately Jim's, about that trip is the opposite of fun. Dumbo, D. This was our first trip to Disney World with the kids. What is the quintessential activity that you do with little kids at Disney World? You ride Dumbo and you photograph it for posterity. That's what you do. I readied my camera as we got in line to ride. How exciting this would be. Finally, I'd get a photo of my kids' happy little faces while soaring through the air on Disney's most famous and adorable elephant. But the line was long. Eventually, the kids grew tired of waiting. Finally, my older son said, I don't think I want to ride Dumbo anymore. Excuse me? And then the younger one, in all of his toddler glory, agreed. Are you kidding? Jim looked at me and said, they don't want to ride. Halfway out of my mind at the thought of not getting the photo I so desperately wanted, I tried my best to talk the boys into wanting to wait for Dumbo. No dice. And right then, my friends, is when I completely lost my mind. I had a full-blown temper tantrum over Dumbo. Lots of things spewed from my mouth, most of which I have buried too deep in my memory banks for retrieval. But the one thing I do remember saying to my children is this: you are going to do fun things here and have fun, or else. That right there just might be the lowest moment I've ever had as a mom, ever. 17 years later, the subject of Dumbo is brought up occasionally just to see if someone can get a rise out of me. And while I can laugh and shake my head at my behavior with everyone else, inside my brain, the shame washes over me like a tidal wave, and I cringe. Not that I ruined the trip, mind you. We did have a great time, and the elephant episode was just a little speed bump on that particular day. However, much to my dismay, there would be no Dumbo photo ever. I learned a valuable lesson, though. Had I not been so completely obsessed with getting the right photo, the perfect photo, had I not been directing our family vacation in such a way to make this, if I do say so myself, gorgeous album that we have now, I could have spent that time living in the moment with my boys just a little more fully and maybe avoided yelling at my kids for something completely ridiculous. They're only young once, after all. The Disney scrapbook was my first ABC project and my last. Though intense pre-trip planning methods are still considered a normal part of my routine, I do try to recognize a little more often when it's time to live in the moment and put down the camera just for a while and back away slowly.